Welcome to the region's only public safety radio talk show. It's time again for the Sheriff's Report, your weekly radio call from Sheriff Ozzie, now in its third year on the air.
Radio base to the Sheriff. Come in, Sheriff.
Well, good morning, afternoon, depending on the perspective of when you're listening to this program. Right now it's live streaming, and soon it will be on podcast, and Saturday it will be on AM 630 at noon. So kind of a wide range of coverage there. In the studio with me, I have the candidate, David Green, for Treasurer of Spokane County. And he's going to kind of give us an idea of why he wants to be the treasurer of Spokane County, what he brings to the table. I asked Senator Baumgardner if he wanted to come on the show. We just couldn't ever really get the schedules to meet. So if I can, and if Mike can, he'll try to squeeze in between now and Election Day. But I thought it was important to try to give people wanting to run for county office a chance to talk, and the reason being is we really operate as a team, as electeds of the county. Really doesn't matter the letter behind our names. We have a job to do for the citizens, and that's the way we look at it. Every 4 year, that letter becomes significant, I guess. In my opinion, it really is the person that you should be voting for, and I think we've forgotten that as a nation. George Washington had it right. He said, "Don't do that party thing; it will divide the nation." Right. Well, lo and behold, I think we're living that. So, David, a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself to the folks.
Sure. Thank you, Sheriff. I've been in Spokane since 2005. I have worked during my career, I started off working in 1982. During my career, I've worked for 2 out of the big 4 accounting firms, as well as Seattle-based firm Moss Adams, which has a good-sized office here in Spokane. And I've been an accountant for ever since I started working 36 years ago at this stage. I never thought I would be an accountant. I went to college. I wanted to be a diplomat. So I went to Georgetown University in Washington, D.C., majored in international economics, took the Foreign Service Officer exam twice, flunked the written exam the first time as a junior, passed it as a senior, and went into the State Department, and they had some practical tests, and that's where a good number of people got washed out. And I got washed out at that stage. I discovered at the time that I really didn't like international economics either. And so for all the young people that might be watching this program, follow your heart as you go through college and things like that, because your career, your aspirations can take a big turn. So deciding that international economics was not my cup of tea, I decided to go to law school. And I went to Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio. Loved my tax classes there, which was quite a shock to me because everybody else hated their tax classes. And came out of law school and interviewed with the big 8 accounting firms, because back then there were 8, now there's 4. One of the firms, the biggest one in Cleveland, which had been founded there, was Ernst & Winnie, now Ernst & Young, or EY. And I spent some time with them from 1982 to 1995. Changed firms, went to Coopers & Lybrand, which is now PricewaterhouseCoopers, and they sent me on a tour of the United States. I got transferred about every 5 years or so. So I started off my career in Cleveland, Ohio. I worked in Washington, D.C., Cleveland again, Detroit, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, and now Spokane. And I really like Spokane. For a tax person, it's a great place to have a tax practice because the weather outside, most people enjoy skiing. But it's great weather to prepare tax returns in because you're inside and warm. And so, for 36 years I've been an accountant, and it really makes me feel good because it's every day you're not quite sure what you're going to be doing. You have projects that you need to work on. You've got tax returns you need to do. So every day you come into the office and it's a challenge. And I've enjoyed that challenge for the last 36 years.
So fair enough to say you're a CPA with a law background?
CPA, I actually have a second law degree because when I was in Washington, D.C., Ernst paid for a Master of Laws in Taxation at Georgetown as well. So CPA with 2 law degrees. I've never practiced law a day in my life, but I use those skill sets every day in my working career.
I could understand where the understanding of the law and your chosen profession go hand in hand, especially now with all the varieties of taxes, and wish we could really make that a lot simpler system.
It would be nice if it could be simpler. The Congress is the one that passes the tax laws, and early in my career, I started off with just having the tax law major change had occurred in 1981. And I started working in 1982. Well, a second major change came in 1982, and so we've had a most recent big change in December of 17. And when I was teaching at Gonzaga's Masters of Science in Taxation program, I was on the adjunct faculty there through the end of December of last year. One of the things I taught my students was you don't need to learn the law, because the law is constantly changing. What you need to learn is how to understand the law, how to read the regulations, how to understand and be able to advise clients on the changes that are coming. Sometimes the guidance is clear, sometimes the guidance is murky, at which point you use your best sense of what's going to happen in the future and give out sound advice. And so many law changes have occurred since I started working, and the legal background certainly has helped me understand what those law changes mean for my clients.
So you have this background. Well, why treasurer? Why do you want to do this?
Well, I think that the biggest issue is sometimes jobs that are task focused, like the treasurer, like the auditor, like the assessor, those tasks are assigned by the state legislature. And sometimes politicians think that they can do a good job performing those tasks. But in my mind, treasurer is one that requires specialist knowledge. And that's because the 2 major focuses of the treasurer's office are to collect taxes, real estate taxes, which, by the way, are due at the end of October. For those of you that own homes, be sure to pay your real estate taxes by the end of October. Business personal property taxes. If a piece of property is sold, the treasurer collects the real estate excise tax on behalf of the state. So that's one set of task-focused jobs that the treasurer does. The other major focus of the treasurer is investing surplus funds on behalf of the county. So when you and I pay our real estate taxes at the end of October, the county gets most of its money twice a year, at the end of April and at the end of October. But the money is spent every single month. And so when money comes in at the end of October, some of it might not be needed till January, February, or March of next year, till the next cycle of funds comes in. And so the treasurer invests those funds on behalf of the county and other districts, including schools, including the airport board, cemetery associations, fire districts, water districts. And you would think that that's no big deal, except at the end of September, a cumulative $1.2 billion is being invested by the treasurer on behalf of the county and approximately 80 other agencies. And so that aspect, not only the task-focused, which ties into what I do as an accountant, but the investment side of things, I think is right up my alley. And I think I could do a great job for the citizens and voters of Spokane County.
You mentioned that number, 1.1 billion. That's with a B.
B. That's with a B.
A lot of people don't understand the magnitude of the budgets within Spokane County. Before we went on air, you were talking about different philosophies on the investment and aspects and things like that. Current treasurer at one point talked about taking us and putting everything in gold. Right. And we saw how that would have played out. Mm-hmm. Because these are citizens'
it's collectively
money.
Our money.
Exactly.
As homeowners, as business owners, and as residents of Spokane County. It's not the county's money. It's our money.
Exactly.
And the treasurer has a fiduciary responsibility to the people that live in Spokane County to manage assets appropriately. State law tells the treasurer what types of assets they can invest in. Gold is not on the list. And the county also has about an 18-page document that details out how the treasurer shall invest, the types of investments the treasurer may invest in. And in addition to the treasurer, there's also two other people in the county auditor and the president of the county commissioners, who meet together every now and then, just sort of keep an eye on the investments. So while the treasurer is ultimately responsible for the performance of those investments, there are two other sets of eyes looking at the big picture along with the treasurer.
So what would you change if you became treasurer? You mentioned before we came on camera that you have an idea. What would that idea be?
I do, and interest rates have gone up. We all know that interest rates have gone up. If you listen to the national news, you'll hear about the Federal Reserve raising interest rates. And what that means for Spokane County is every time the Federal Reserve raises interest rates, the rates of return on the short-term investments that the treasurer may invest in typically go up. Sometimes if the Fed raises rates 0.25%, typically the investments go up 0.25%. And the issue is there's a certain amount of that $1.2 billion that is invested very, very, very short term, like 1 day short term. And on the reports that the county issues, at the end of August, there was about $173 million that was in a line item called passbook/checking, and it was earning 0.43%, which, on $100, that would be 43 cents. And would you go down the street if you could, on $100, would you go down to a different financial institution if you could earn 2.03%? And on $100, the ability to get an extra $1.60 probably would not cause you to walk down the street and change your practice. But we're not talking $100. We're talking $100 million. And so on $100 million, the difference is $1.6 million. It roughly equates to about $130,000 a month in difference. And the state has a fund that at the end of August you could be earning 2.03% on. The state takes money, or can take money, from the county, and all the county needs to do is to give a day's notice if it needs some of its money back, which might be needed for operations. And if it's $10 million or more that you need back, you just need to be able to forecast cash and forecast what your cash flow needs are, so that if we know that $50 million is needed a week from now, we put that on a schedule and we give the state an extra day's notice. And so the opportunity there was to take some money that would be earning 0.43% and shifting it over to the state, same safe investments, but the state treasurer, Dwayne Davidson, who I met this past summer, the state treasurer has a fund that services the counties and other local organizations. And I think we could do a better job of forecasting cash, taking a look at what our cash flow needs are, and earning the highest amount of money on things that might be due in a month or 2 months or 3 months, and getting some extra money for the county. Now, the treasurer doesn't decide where that money is spent. The county commissioners decide how money is spent in our county. And so I'll pose a question to you, Sheriff. If the county commissioners said you could have 1 month's earnings on $100 million or an extra $130,000, would you be able to put that to a good purpose?
Immediately.
Yeah.
My less lethal platform, tasers and things like that, are aging out. It's a 5-year cycle. The county doesn't budget capital replacement. What we should be doing is, if a taser costs $100 and it lasts for 5 years, a fifth of that cost of that taser would be put away, and at 5 years we would simply replace the tasers. We don't do that in our budgeting aspects at the county. So that type of money would I could use it immediately.
And it's almost found money from the perspective of if you have a treasurer who has experience with money and is focused on a safe return on the money, because we don't want to lose it. That's why gold was not an appropriate investment 8 years ago. And it's still not an appropriate investment, but short-term treasury bonds are. And certainly the state's local government investment pool is a very safe investment. And so if we can forecast cash and have a great handle on our cash flow needs for the coming time period, then we know with certainty how much of do we have an extra $100 million that we can ship off to earn a higher rate of return, or do we need to keep it truly in a checking account earning not much money? And that's the difference between a politician who is focused on managing people versus an accountant who is focused on money. And that's why I think there's just a perfect marriage between somebody with a financial and accounting background and the Office of Treasurer.
Treasurer have anything to do with the bond rating?
Treasurer helps work with bond counsel and with the commissioners to issue bonds. Treasurer has an informal role in whispering into the county commissioners' ears based on if you do this, this might happen down the future. But other than that, it's truly a task-focused position. There is some whispering that can be done with the county commissioners as a guidance function. But really, there's no major policy involved.
If the county needed to get a loan from itself, basically, who do they come to?
They come to the Spokane County Investment Pool, which is our surplus funds account. And that actually happened this year. And I'd like to applaud Chief Deputy Treasurer Mike Voles and Spokane County Treasurer Rob Chase, because there was a school district that got caught up in last year's capital budget fiasco, where the capital budget was held up over politics, which I think you and I would both agree is not something that should be happening. And the school district needed money. They had an building opportunity, and they were supposed to be allocated funds from the capital budget, and the funds were not appropriated because the legislative session ran long. And an internal loan was made to that school district from the Spokane County Investment Pool. It was a win-win situation. Lemonade was made out of lemons because the school district got access to money so that they could work on their project, and the Spokane County Investment Pool got a higher rate of return than what it was earning at the time. And so the Spokane County Investment Pool can be used to help some of the taxing districts with short-term cash flow issues, and it's a perfect use for that.
Anything that you'd really like to have the citizens know about, your intent for the office? Some people, when they run for office, I've seen it where they didn't even really know what the office does.
Sure.
Which is pretty spooky, especially in this type of situation.
Because we're talking about money.
We're talking
about money, and it's
the fiscal, financial stability of the entire county is what we're talking about. So you're a CPA. You understand money or anything else. Do you have the political side of it? What is the drive for the political side?
Well, I don't think there is a drive. I've served clients for over 30 years, both individual clients as well as business clients. When I first came to Spokane in 2005, I became treasurer of the Fox Theater Organization. After it opened, I became president of the Fox Theater Organization before it merged into the Spokane Symphony. I've served on the Symphony Board. I've served on the board of the Northwest Museum of Arts and Culture. So I think I have passion for service in my blood, client service as well as service to community organizations, and I'd like to take that passion for service to the next level by serving the good folks of Spokane County. But I also think, I'm a first-time candidate, and being a first-time candidate, it's scary because you don't know what to expect. You're stepping outside your comfort zone, and I'm definitely outside my comfort zone. But I do think that it's important for people with particularly good skill sets that match up to an office to take that leap of faith and step outside the comfort zone to be able to do something for in the public service realm. I've committed, because I don't think of myself as a politician, although as a candidate for office, I guess I'm a novice politician. I've committed publicly to the citizens of Spokane County that if elected, I will serve the entire 4-year term, because I have no aspirations to run for any other office. My opponent, unfortunately, was asked by the Spokesman Review whether he would sign that same pledge to serve the entire 4-year term, and he said no, he would not to commit to serving the entire 4-year term. So I think part of it is commitment, part of it's passion for service, and lastly, I think it's ability. I know numbers. I know people. We talked at the very outset, you talked about being able to work with other elected officials and other departments. It's a team, it's very much a team approach. If you step into the courthouse, you actually walk through the assessor's office to get to the treasurer's office to pay your real estate tax bill. And I know that because I did that back in April when I paid my business personal property taxes and I paid my real estate taxes. That's sort of strange to have to walk through the assessor's space to be able to get to see the treasurer's people. Right. And so I know the auditor, the assessor, the treasurer are all joined at the hip in the county. They all work together exceedingly closely. I'm committed to working we've got 2 Republicans running for assessor. We have a Democrat as auditor. Party affiliation does not matter. All the elected officials at the county level are working towards a common goal, which is to have competency in county government, provide services to the voters and residents of the county, great service at an economical price, and just do the best job we can. And I think by having somebody that knows a little bit about money as treasurer, that helps us achieve that common goal.
Yeah. You mentioned the political side. People always speculate, I heard it today. I just wrapped up a Special Olympics breakfast and I was walking out and somebody said, why haven't you moved up? And I went, pretty much as high as I can go in the agency,
Right.
And they said, no, it moved up in politics. And it's like, right. I enjoy what I do. There's a lot of speculation that I'll run for mayor next year of Spokane. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, unequivocally, no. I have no desire to do that. Mm-hmm. I enjoy what I do. So you're not in it to be the next stepping stone.
There's no stepping stone. There's no ladder. I just can't. I'm so far out of my comfort zone running for treasurer, and I think that's in my wheelhouse in terms of skill sets. I would just be horrified to think about anything else. And so I'd love to serve the citizens of this county for the next 4 years as treasurer. If I do a good job, I'm 61 years old. If I do a good job, I'd be 65. See, 61, yeah, 65. And I would consider running for re-election then. But during that period of time, no. We'll take the commitment to 4 years. We'll take it if I'm elected and do a great job. I'd commit to 8 years as treasurer. And then it's time for somebody else to step into the job, and I'll retire, and having trained hopefully an office full of great people where 1 or 2 of those great people in the office might decide to run for treasurer because it's specialized skill sets, and I just don't see it as a job for a politician.
We have roughly 3 minutes left. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give you 2 of that to talk to the folks and why you. What makes you different than your opponent? Why should we think about you for the treasurer of Spokane County?
Okay, thank you, Sheriff. I think we talked about commitment, passion for service, and ability. Those commitment, the C, passion for service, the P, A for ability, is CPA. And so not only am I a certified public accountant, I also have CPA because I have that commitment, I have that passion for service, and I have that ability. The opportunity in the next 4 years with interest rates going up means that Spokane County is uniquely positioned with its with its $1.2 billion worth of surplus funds, short-term investments, to raise a lot of extra money for the county that can be spent by the commissioners on good purposes, whether it's the sheriff's office, whether it's filling potholes, whether it's working for extra things in the safety area with the courts and the jails. The treasurer's job is so task focused that I think it takes a specialist in order to be able to do the best job for the people of Spokane County. And I would love to have votes. You know, if you're taking a look at your ballot over the next week or so, we should be getting them within the next couple of days. And we've got till November 6th. Ballots are postage paid. And so when you get to treasurer, which should either be the last race on the bottom of the first page or the first race on the top of the second page, depending on where you live, you know, when you take a look at David Green, just remember CPA and think commitment, passion for service, and ability.
Okay. David, you mentioned ballots they're in the mail right now.
I think they're in the mail right now.
They are in the mail. You should start seeing them probably around Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Since this is going to air Saturday, I'm going to talk about a couple of initiatives. Initiative I-940. This is an initiative that's designed to make sure that law enforcement gets more training. Folks, we already get that training. That training has been there forever. This is a very bad bill, and we support its outgrowth bill, which was I-330. And that one didn't make the ballot. The very bad initiative made the ballot. This one needs to be defeated. That is a vote no. Law enforcement is very, very worried about this particular bill because there's sections in it that if there's an incident, I have to take care of the bad guy before I can take care of my victims. That's ludicrous. This needs to be defeated. This was not a well thought out. Matter of fact, when the people came to me and talked about this bill, I went, I don't know why you want to go that direction because all these things are already happening. The next initiative is I-1639. This is about gun control. It's basically what it is. It's gun control. The Washington Sheriff's Association has come out against this. Law enforcement in the state has come out against this. This is not a bill that is designed for school safety. This is a very poorly designed bill. This is very bad law, and I don't like the HIPAA ramifications at all that reside within this bill. I-1639 is a vote no, and we are very passionate about this as far as law enforcement. We care about our kids, we care about our schools, and we want them to be as safe as we can. This bill does nothing for that, absolutely nothing. We had an incident in Russia, in Moscow, I believe it was yesterday, that highlights why this bill does nothing for school safety. It has nothing to do with AR-15. That kid used a shotgun. 19 dead, 50 wounded. A shotgun. So when you're thinking about these things, please take the time to look at both sides. And I can tell you that from law enforcement perspective, your law enforcement leaders of this state say no to I-940 and no to 1639. This is Sheriff Ozzie Knezovich. Dave, thanks for coming in and being with us. And this is the Sheriff's Report. Have a great day.
The Sheriff's Report is a joint production of Spokane Talks Media and KTW 630 AM and 96.5 FM, which are solely responsible for its content. Ask a question, recommend a guest, or watch this program again anytime at SpokaneTalksMedia.com. Have a safe day.